I bought my home for one reason: quiet. It sits at the edge of the subdivision, last lot before a strip of protected woodland. I'm a structural engineer by trade. I work long hours, mostly remote, mostly reviewing plans and compliance documents for commercial projects. My life is paperwork, measurements, and building codes. Predictable, orderly. I keep my property the same way. The workshop in my detached garage is permitted, every tool mounted, every cabinet labeled. My truck fits inside. My lawn is trimmed every Saturday morning at 8 a.m., not 7:59. I don't test limits. The HOA president introduced herself 2 weeks after I moved in. "Just making sure everyone's aligned with community standards," she said, smiling without warmth. Her name was Carol Whitmore, late 50s, controlled posture, clipboard tucked under her arm like a badge of authority. She spoke in careful phrases: safety compliance, neighborhood cohesion, property value preservation. At first, it was small things: an email about the shade of mulch I used, a reminder about approved exterior color palettes, a notice suggesting my garage door had been open longer than necessary. I responded to each message the same way: attached documentation, paint color approval form, submitted and stamped, mulch specification, listed in HOA landscaping guidelines, garage use, compliant with bylaws. Her replies grew shorter. Then she started showing up, unannounced. She would stand at the edge of my driveway, not crossing onto the concrete, but close enough to imply ownership of the space. "I've received concerns," she'd say. "What concerns?" I would ask. She never had specifics, just language: safety, noise, possible commercial activity. I don't run a business from home. I build furniture as a hobby. A table saw at 3 p.m. on a Saturday is not industrial manufacturing. Still, I checked the bylaws again. Permitted. I installed additional sound insulation in the garage anyway, not because I had to, but because precision matters. That's when the paperwork intimidation started. A formal notice of review, then a pre-compliance warning, each letter heavier in tone, more legal phrasing, less neighborly. I attended one HOA meeting to address it directly. Carol chaired from the center table. "We've had repeated compliance anomalies at your property," she said in front of 20 neighbors. "Can you specify?" I asked calmly. She flipped through her folder. "We're evaluating." Evaluating what? There were no citations, no violations, just insinuation. After that meeting, 2 neighbors quietly approached me in the parking lot. "She's been like this for years," one said. "Most people just pay the fines," the other added. "I don't pay fines that don't exist." The first real boundary shift happened on a Tuesday morning. I was on a work call when my security app alerted me. Motion detected. Driveway. Carol was standing near my garage door, taking photos. I stepped outside. "Can I help you?" I asked. "This is a visual compliance check," she replied. "You're on my property. The bylaws allow observation." "From common areas," I corrected. Her jaw tightened. "Don't make this adversarial." I wasn't. She was. That afternoon, I pulled the full HOA governing documents, every amendment, every enforcement clause. I read them like contract language, because that's what they are. There's a line between authority and assumption, and Carol was stepping closer to it. The escalation sign came 3 weeks later, a certified letter. Subject line: emergency structural inspection, immediate access required. No prior violations cited, no municipal order attached, just HOA letterhead. Access demanded within 48 hours. That wasn't oversight. That was something else. Pressure doesn't explode steel. It bends it, slowly. And something told me she was about to bend too far.
If you like the story, please subscribe for more. The inspection happened on a Friday. I wasn't home. I know that because my security system timestamps everything. At 11:42 a.m., a white SUV pulled into my driveway. At 11:44, Carol stepped out. She wasn't alone. Two men in polo shirts with a generic Property Services logo followed her. No municipal markings, no county insignia. At 11:46, one of them tried my garage side door. Locked. At 11:48, Carol unlocked my backyard gate. She did not have permission. At 11:49, they entered. I watched it live from my phone in a conference room downtown. They walked through my yard filming, measuring, narrating supposed non-compliant structural modifications. At 11:57, one of the men forced the workshop door. The frame splintered. That sound, the crack of wood under pressure, carries differently when it's yours. They entered my workshop. They opened cabinets, unplugged equipment, tagged items with adhesive notices. Carol stood in the doorway directing them. This area exceeds residential hobby classification. She said it like law. It wasn't. I left the meeting immediately, but I didn't drive home. I drove to the police station. Trespass, property damage, forced entry. I showed the desk officer the live footage. He leaned closer. They broke in? Yes. Do they have a warrant? No. He made a call. By the time I arrived home, a patrol unit was already there. Carol was still on my property when the officers walked through the gate. Her confidence evaporated in stages. This is an HOA compliance action, she insisted. One officer asked a simple question. Do you have court authorization? Silence. The Property Services men left quickly. The damage remained. I didn't argue, I didn't shout. I provided property deed, bylaws highlighting limits of HOA authority, permit approvals for my workshop, video timestamps, and proof of forced entry. A report was filed. Over the next week, I escalated properly. Civil attorney retained. Demand letter issued. Preservation notice sent to the HOA board requiring retention of all communication records. Then the mistake that sealed it. Carol sent a mass email to the neighborhood claiming emergency enforcement action conducted due to dangerous, unpermitted structural alterations. I responded once. Attached, building permit approvals, inspection sign-offs, police case number. I did not editorialize. 2 days later, a county building inspector visited, at my request. He walked through the workshop. All compliant, he said plainly. He provided a written statement. Meanwhile, my attorney filed civil trespass, property damage, and defamation. And because HOA funds had paid the property services contractors, the board was now implicated. At the next scheduled HOA meeting, legal counsel for the association would be present. Carol still believed she was defending the neighborhood. What she didn't understand was this: authority ends where documentation begins, and I had everything documented.
The HOA meeting was standing room only. Word spreads quickly when police reports get mentioned. Carol opened the session as usual. Controlled, composed. Then the association's attorney asked to speak. He had a different tone. He outlined liability exposure, unauthorized entry, property damage, misrepresentation of enforcement authority. Then I stood. I didn't bring emotion. I brought order. On the projector, video clip, timestamped, still frame, forced door frame splintering, permit approval, county stamped, inspector letter, compliant, police report number. No commentary, just facts. The room shifted. One board member asked quietly, "We approved this inspection?" Carol hesitated. It was an emergency action. The attorney responded before anyone else could. There was no emergency clause invoked properly.
That was the moment her authority fractured. Not dramatically, structurally. A motion was introduced, suspension pending investigation. It passed. Within 30 days, HOA insurance settled property damage. Personal liability was assigned to Carol for actions outside board authority. She resigned. The board voted to amend inspection procedures requiring third-party legal review before enforcement entry. The defamation claim settled with a written retraction distributed to all residents. My workshop door was replaced. Better than before. Neighbors who had avoided eye contact for months stopped by. "I'm glad someone pushed back," one said. "I didn't push. I documented." The subdivision feels different now. Quieter. Not because conflict disappeared, but because boundaries were clarified. I still mow at 8 a.m. I still build furniture on weekends. The only change is a small plaque mounted inside my workshop near the doorframe. It reads, "Private property, protected by law." Not as a threat, as a reminder. Because authority only works when it stays inside its lines. And when it doesn't, it answers to someone who knows exactly where those lines are.